All right, here we go. This is the most complicated ones. These are the ones with brackets. Then you're going to have to combine like terms. Then you're going to have to bring over the smaller x. And then you're going to have to do backwards BEDMAS. And that's what this is trying to say. First, you're going to do the brackets. Then you're going to combine things that are alike. Then you're going to want to move over the x. And then lastly, you're going to have backwards BEDMAS. So this will be, if you were going to just kind of leave yourself some notes here, this would be bracket. This would be like terms. I'll write the terms over here. This is going to be the move the x. And then after that, you've got the backwards BEDMAS. So let's take a look at our first example. The very first thing you want to do whenever you see brackets is get rid of it. I will multiply this -2 into here, and then I will multiply the -2, I just need a different color here, into here. So let's take a look. First I will make this little thing here, whoops, this little line to divide up the left side and the right side, and I've got a 2 from the 2 carrying down, and now I'm going to multiply this -2. -2 times x is a -2x. -2 times +2 is going to be a -4. On the right side, let's first multiply this -6 into here. -6 times 2 is -12. And -6 times -x, well, negative times a negative is a positive, and 6 times x is just going to be a 6x. And then we've got a plus 2x at the end. After that, we want to combine like terms. So on the left side, there's a 2 and a -4. 2 and -4, if you put them together, is a -2. And I'm going to write this -2x. That just gets carried down. Notice that I wrote the x first and then the number. I always like to do that. Now, I'm also going to see that there's some like terms here. 6x and 2x. That would be an 8x, and I'm going to write that first. And then I'll write down the number, a -12. So step number 1, that was the bracket. Step number 2, that was the like terms. Now what we're going to need to do is move over the smaller x. So I have an 8x and a -2. -2 is smaller, so I will add it over. So -2 and +2, will, if you add them, will cancel out. So on the left, I've got a -2 equals 8 plus 2 is 10x, and there's a -12. And then from here on in, I will do BEDMAS, backwards BEDMAS. B-E-D-M-A. So I'm going to get rid of, S. I'm not going to write the B. I'm going to get rid of any add or subtract first, and then multiply or divide, and then lastly exponents. So I see an add or subtract here first, so I will add the -12 and +12 will cancel out. I've got to add the 12. 12 minus 2 is going to be a 10, equals 10x. And now this is a multiply, so I will then divide by 10. X is equal to 1. So I'll zoom out here a little bit, and you can see the brackets, the like terms moving over the smaller x, and then BEDMAS. And then x is equal to 1 at the end. Letter B here. Exact same thing. Actually first I'll start with making I like to do this all the time, make a little division. Step number 1, bring in the brackets by distributing the -2 in. So -2 times x is going to be a -2x. And -2 times -5 is a +10. And we've got a 5x that was just there. Equals, on the right side here, I will get rid of this bracket, so I'll multiply the 2 in. 2 times x is a 2x. 2 times positive 2 is a positive 4. And then I can carry this plus 2 down here. That just gets carried down. Then I can start looking at like terms. So if we're keeping track, this was our B step. Now we're going to do our L, our like terms. I got a 5x and a 2x. 5x minus 2x is a 3x. And on the right side, I've got a 4 and a 2. A 4 and a 2 is a 6. And then I've got a plus 10 here, equal sign, and I got a 2x. Notice I wrote the x and then the number. I wrote the x and then the number. This is a positive 6, so I'll have to write that. Now we're going to do the get rid of the smaller x. So 2x is smaller than 3, so I will subtract it away on both sides. So on the right side, that's now gone, so I just have the 6. On the left, I've got a 3x minus 2x. That's a 1x. And then I've got a plus 10. And now I can do whatever comes next will be backwards BEDMAS. Without the b. So get rid of any addition or subtraction. I have an addition, so I will minus the 10 from both sides. So I have a 1x on the left, and 6 minus 10 is a negative 4. And I wrote 1x, but again, I don't actually need to write 1x. As I mentioned this back at the beginning, 1x equals negative 4. Well, we're just looking for what is an x. Well, an x, or 1x, or just x is negative 4. So in that case, we're done. So I'll zoom out here. Step number 1, get rid of the brackets by distributing the negative 2 in and distributing the positive 2 in. Step number 2, combine like terms. 5 minus 2 is a 3x. 4 plus 2 is a 6. Then move the smaller x, so I minus the 2 over to this side. Cancel that out. And lastly, backwards BEDMAS, minus the 10, which got you negative 4. And if you wanted to, you could go, this is a times by 1, so I can divide by 1. However, I did say 1x is the same thing as just x. We don't need to write the 1. And so these are the most complicated questions. If you can do these, you're going to be okay. And there's some ones in the worksheet that you can practice, but otherwise these incorporate almost everything. I say almost because we're going to have fractions, but they won't be as complicated with all these brackets and stuff as well. But these ones, there's no fractions here, but these ones are actually very complicated. There's a lot going on here.